Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a look at 12 totally ordinary guys whose wild journeys literally changed the course of human history. I am so pumped to share this with you all because, honestly, it's the ultimate underdog story. We're talking about everyday people who were handed a mission that felt completely impossible, and yet their legacy is still echoing across the globe right now. So let's just dive right into it. So picture this. 2,000 years ago, Jesus Christ issues this incredibly simple two-word invitation to a group of the most unlikely individuals you could ever imagine. Just think about that for a second. Follow me. That's it. It wasn't some super detailed contract, there was no group chat explaining the roadmap, and there was definitely no warning about the intense struggles they'd face. It was just a simple, open invitation to step into something greater. And who actually answered this call? Well, they definitely weren't kings. They weren't wealthy influencers or top-tier religious scholars. No way. They were fishermen. They were despised tax collectors, basically the outcasts of their day. They were just everyday, blue-collar workers with major flaws, a ton of doubts, and really humble beginnings. Honestly, they were a lot like us, just ordinary people trying to figure out their place in the world. All right, Section 1, the bold frontline leaders. Let's start off by looking at how the loudest and boldest among this group were transformed from ordinary workers into completely fearless leaders. Now, to truly grasp their legacy and the actual weight of what they accomplished, we really have to understand the ultimate cost they paid. And the absolutely crucial word here is martyr. It literally translates to witness. You see, these guys weren't just out there sharing cool stories. They believed what they saw so deeply, so completely, that they laid down their actual lives to prove it. Take a look at the incredible contrast in Peter's life. He started out as this really impulsive, hot-headed, completely ordinary fisherman. You know, the guy who was always saying the wrong thing and acting way before he thought it through. But he transforms. He becomes this bold, passionate leader who preached completely fearlessly. Later on, during some seriously heavy persecution in Rome, Peter was sentenced to death. But get this, he actually requested to be crucified upside down because he felt totally unworthy to die in the exact same manner as Jesus. I mean, going from a guy who couldn't control his temper to a rock-solid martyr, that is a wild transformation. And let's move over to his brother, Andrew. Andrew carried the gospel all the way to Greece, where he was ultimately arrested. He was crucified on an X-shaped cross, which, by the way, we actually still call St. Andrew's Cross today. And here is the most awe-inspiring part of his story. Even while hanging there in immense, unthinkable suffering, he gathered every single ounce of his willpower to just keep preaching to anyone who would listen right up until his very final breath. Which brings us to James, the son of Zebedee. Number 1. He holds a very specific, heavy place in this history because he became the very first apostle to seal his faith with his blood. Arrested under King Herod Agrippa, James showed a courage that really set the standard for everyone else when he was executed by the sword. He was the very first to give absolutely everything. Moving on to Section 2, doubters and quiet believers. Because, what if you aren't naturally loud, bold, or completely confident in your faith? Not everyone is a frontline personality like Peter. This brings up a massive question, especially for any of us who have ever felt unsure, anxious, or maybe just quiet in our beliefs. Can God use someone who struggles with doubt? Well, the historical record of the 12 gives us a resounding, absolutely incredible yes. Think about Thomas. We basically all know him as Thomas the Doubter, right? That's kind of the label he's been stuck with forever. But his story proves that our deepest seasons of questioning can actually be transformed into an unbreakable foundation. Thomas walked all the way to India. That was an insanely dangerous trip back then. He went just to share the gospel. He eventually angered local leaders and was speared to death while faithfully praying. So the ultimate doubter actually became a man of unwavering faith. Then there was the other James, the son of Alphaeus. He is often known as the less famous disciple, the quiet one in the back. But his silent faith spoke so much louder than words ever could. In Jerusalem, he faced brutal persecution. He was thrown from a temple, and when that didn't kill him, he was beaten. It just goes to show you, you absolutely do not have to be the loudest person in the room to have a faith that leaves a permanent mark on the world. Oh, and you gotta check out Matthew. He started as the despised tax collector. Basically, he was viewed as a complete sellout and a traitor by his own people. Think of the equivalent of an internet troll today, someone literally nobody wanted to be around. But he leaves that highly lucrative, controversial career behind to become a gospel writer. He traveled to Ethiopia and Persia, and whether he was martyred by a sword or died of natural causes, his written words are literally still living on in the hands of billions of people today. Crazy, right? All right, section 3, messengers to the world. As these ordinary guys were totally transformed from the inside out, their message just couldn't be contained anymore. It exploded outward to the very edges of the known map. The sheer scale of their combined effort is absolutely staggering. Look at this list. From Rome to Greece, down into Ethiopia, across Asia Minor, Armenia, Syria, Persia, and all the way out to India. Think about this for a second. Without smartphones, without Google Maps, without planes or cars, these simple workers rapidly reached across diverse nations and cultures. They carried a global mission entirely on foot. This perfectly illustrates their diverse paths and the immense sacrifices they made. Philip preached in Asia Minor, and when he was tortured and crucified in Hierapolis, his faith didn't break. He actually prayed for the guys executing him. Bartholomew took the message to India and Armenia, facing brutal persecution before being traditionally flayed and beheaded. And Thaddeus remained a faithful messenger of hope in Syria and Persia until he was violently killed. Then we've got Simon the Zealot. A zealot was basically a fierce, rebellious fighter for political freedom, but he ends up trading his fight for an earthly revolution for the role of a servant in Christ's kingdom. But he kept all of that intense passion and zeal, channeling it straight into the gospel until he was martyred in Persia, reportedly sawed in half. And we definitely can't forget Matthias. He stepped into a really heavy role, chosen to replace Judas Iscariot and complete the circle of the 12. He faithfully took up the mantle, preaching across various regions before tradition tells us he was stoned and beheaded. He finished the race just as fiercely as the rest of them. Which leads us to our final section, part 4, a faith that never dies. Because in the midst of all these heavy, tragic, yet fiercely courageous finishes, one disciple's story offers us a really unique kind of endurance. John, known as the beloved disciple. While the others met violent ends, John's path was different, though definitely not easy. He was exiled to the rocky prison island of Patmos. Tradition says he survived multiple horrific attempts on his life, enduring deep isolation to eventually die of old age. He holds this unique legacy of being the only disciple not martyred, proving that sometimes true endurance isn't just about how you die, but about living a long, faithful life through immense daily hardship. And honestly, that's something we all face in our own ways, whether it's school or just hanging out with friends. So it all comes back to this number, 12. 12 totally ordinary, deeply flawed guys with wildly different personalities, and 12 ultimate sacrifices that literally altered human history forever. They weren't powerful, they weren't rich, but their faith changed the world, and their message never died. Their earthly lives ended tragically, sure, but their powerful legacy lives on, right now, right here in the room with us today. They gave absolutely everything to ensure this message of hope made its way through history to you. So the only question remaining is, when you hear that simple invitation to step into something greater, how are you going to answer the call? Thanks so much for exploring this amazing journey with me. Keep digging, keep seeking, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.